of giving anything that is going to be resourceful for either our clients that are with us now or anybody that is looking into signing up with us. So since we've been getting such high demands for the content map, we decided that we're just going to be giving that away again this week, just because, it's working for us, and, a lot of people find it very useful. So, like I said, to be able to get entered into our drawing, there'll be one winner, and we will be announcing that on our Friday episode. So, like I said, we'll be giving that away Friday, and how you can get entered into that is by sharing this video or commenting and interacting with us. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and, jump on and say hi. So we'll just wait, about 30 more seconds, see if anybody jumps on. I know this is, what time is it? Well, it's Eastern time, duh. So if anybody's, it might be lunchtime for some people, so we'll see if anybody jumps on. How's the weather going over there, Jeff?
It's hot. It's warm down here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been, I think, right around the 90s, upper 80s, below 90s.
Ohio would be lucky to see that number.
Yeah.
We'd probably all be dying, though.
Oh, it gets warm here in about another month. It's going to be hot. So.
Oh, boy. Never been to Texas, so maybe I'll stay away from that. I'm terrible with dry heat, then I'm guessing.
Later on in the year it is, but
August is the worst.
Not so much in early and mid-spring.
Okay. So you're probably enjoying it right now then?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear my dog barking?
Yes. That's all right.
Let me shut this door.
I see somebody just hopped on. You can go ahead and say hi. Tell us where you're from. We're going to get started just in a second. We'll be talking about our topic. So today we'll be talking about how you can study your competitors' content. That's always very important, especially when you're trying to step up your content to another level, or even your website or anything along those lines. It's kind of important just to keep in touch with what everyone else is doing and what is necessarily working or not working for those people then. All right, so we'll just get started right now, and you guys can kind of jump on and or catch us later. So,
what's that? You cut out.
Oh, sorry. You wanna take it away? I just told them a little bit what we're gonna be talking about today, but you can go in the depth. You're the expert.
Today we're gonna talk about a little bit about the benefits you can get just from spending some time researching what it is your competitors are doing. Mm-hmm. So that can be done through Facebook advertising, really any kind of advertising at all. That's the best way to see the results in your industry. And you don't want to just look at any business. You want to look at your top competitors. Who is it that you want to reach their status? And of course, we all have in our mind that, we're the best at what we do, but you got to be realistic about it. There's always somebody you're shooting to take over their spot.
Yeah.
And by spending the time researching what it is they are and aren't doing, you can really set yourself up to achieve more success.
Yeah. And like you said, you always think you're the best, but like comparing yourself to, how much further you're going to really be getting in your business.
Exactly. And if you're only comparing yourself to the people that you're already better than, then you're never going to grow. You're never going to become more. So the only way to increase your sales and to do more than you're doing is you got to, if you want to be in the top of your industry, you've got to compete with the top in your industry.
Yeah, definitely. And you can always learn from their mistakes as well.
Exactly. Sometimes the best lesson you learn is what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's a very good point. So since we're kind of talking about, following your competitors, what are some things that you think you can kind of learn from your competitors then? Obviously, like I said, like you could learn from their mistakes, but I'm sure there's other things that you can learn from them as well.
Yeah, you can also pay attention to the keywords they're using, whether it's on social media or blog posts or just going to their website and looking at the content and the copy they have on their different pages. If they're using certain keywords that are producing results for them and they're in your industry, then obviously those keywords are going to produce an effect for you also, as long as you're coming up with quality content.
Mm-hmm. So like you said, like if it's not necessarily looking at, what they're doing wrong, you can also learn from them as well. Like you said, if they're using the appropriate keywords and, something you never thought of, then obviously that's something you should learn from. You shouldn't copy it. But so like, what would be a good approach to like, for the lack of a better term, kind of like mock their content since it's working, but still maintain standing out and being unique from that source?
Well, you've got to realize that I get what you're saying with copying and whatnot, but if you Google a keyword, there's, depending on what it is, pages and pages of results.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're using something that's been copyrighted or trademarked, I mean, it's just like when you write about news in your industry. Everybody's writing about the same story. They're just doing it in their own words.
Yeah.
So you can spend some time looking at the keywords that they're having success with.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they're getting a lot better rankings than you are, and they're having better results than your business is having, you might want to look at the structure and the length of their content compared to the content you're using, the formatting they use compared to what you're using. But there's just all different ways where you can not necessarily copy what they're doing, but you can take what they've had success with and turn it into your own brand and your own voice.
Yeah. And like you said about the keywords, like there's going to be so many other people using those keywords too, which is kind of how you're going to be, not necessarily stealing the keywords from them because, everyone's using it, but stepping up your content game as well.
Yeah, exactly. And, you can spend buku dollars on advertising. You can spend hours every week doing keyword research. But what it all boils down to is you've got to have quality content. And that's where, sometimes you just got to accept the fact that, hey, you know what? I can't do this as well as it needs to be done, and that's okay. There's other professionals that I can hire that can.
Yeah.
And that's services like Copywriter Today come into the picture.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that would be, an effective way if, they're not the strongest writers, and they kind of know that, but it's been working for them. But their competitors have been stepping it up and then, outsourcing some of your content just so you can focus on other aspects like, working on, you're working on being more active in social media too.
Yeah, and that I think we touched on that a couple episodes ago. There is so much more that goes into creating content than writing. That's why you don't just use the term writing in the industry. It is creating content. And whenever you create anything, there's different steps and procedures. And it's so much more than just sitting at a desk with a laptop or computer or pen and paper and putting words together. I mean, if you want to have, that's the big difference. So if you want to have effective content, if you want to put words to work for your business in a way that it provides results, there's time involved.
Yeah.
And it's time it needs to be part of I don't know if I want to say daily schedule, but there needs to be scheduled several blocks of time scheduled throughout your week to make sure you're keeping up to date with everything.
Yeah. And that also, we always talk about this a lot, but that also goes with, what your topic is as well.
Exactly.
If you're talking, your main focus is technology, like, of course you're going to be posting and updating all the time because technology is constantly changing. Also with anything in the health field, like anything medicine related or something along those lines.
Yeah. And you also, when you're checking out your competitors and what they're doing, not only the keywords, but pay attention to the headlines they're using. Mm-hmm. And like if you go through their Facebook page, you can see the number of comments and shares and likes. If they're using a certain style of image that's getting great interaction compared to others, I mean, there's so many different aspects you can learn just from simply checking out what your competitors are doing. There's always ways to improve without investing a whole lot of money. Just time's going to be required.
Yeah, exactly. And you also like you mentioned, looking at somebody that's super high up and you want to get to that level, or at least reach it or do better. So that's going to be like a constant push. But what you can also do is, instead of looking at, the big picture, which a lot of people do, is, kind of looking at somebody that is leveled with you, mid-level, and then that person you really want to reach, because you want to constantly set your goals and make them, realistic, and think about how logical that goal is. And, it's as simple as looking at somebody that has the same ranks as you and seeing and saying, what's like one thing that I could change to make myself just one up them,
Oh, yeah. Everybody likes to hang out with one-uppers. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Who doesn't?
But
it's easier to look down, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, that's a good point. That you need to make sure you're paying attention to who it is you're studying, because, like I said, time's involved, and the last thing you want to do is do a whole lot of real research just to realize that you're trying to mimic somebody that you're already out producing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's a good point, because you don't want to be, wasting that valuable time so obviously before you jump into thinking about how you want to look at other people's content that are in the same kind of industry as you definitely want to do your research and, figure out, and before that is figuring out what you think you're doing wrong, which is kind of easy to admit to yourself. But obviously if you're working with a team and you're looking at your numbers, there's going to be something wrong. It's just going to, take some time for, nobody likes to critique their own stuff, obviously, because it's hard because you're making that mistake in the first place.
Yeah. And that's where perception is everything, because when you look at this as, okay, I need to study and research what I'm doing wrong, it's going to have a negative effect. Your research isn't going to be as thorough. You're not going to be as open to change. But if you take the perspective of, okay, instead of looking at what I need to do or what I'm not doing good enough, let's look at what I need to do a little better.
Yeah.
And just by simply changing around the perspective, it can make the workday flow a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to be your worst critic for most people, just because people are so hard on themselves. But the change that you have to make it has to be effective. Like you can't make, like, obviously baby steps are like, good to a certain point, but like you're going to be taking years to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen overnight. Me personally, though, I don't like that whole statement, and this is just me personally. It's not a reflection of copywriter today or anything like that, but I don't like that phrase, baby steps, because I think a lot of people use that as an excuse for laziness. But that's just me. Yeah, it is a process and it takes time, but nothing gets accomplished without effort. And
Yeah.
if you keep relying on baby steps, eventually you got to get up and start walking.
Yeah. Right. And eventually you have to do it on your
Enough
own.
of that. Enough of that.
I was going to say, you could talk about that statement for days, can't you?
Yeah, well,
I'd love for somebody who, there's nobody on right now, but I'd love for somebody to kind of jump in and see what they have to say about that, whoever's going to be watching later. So if anybody has anything to say towards, what they feel about the concept of baby steps, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, well, just like we can be our own worst critic, we can also be our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And, when you settle for something long enough, it just becomes comfortable. And, has a horrible effect. So that the whole baby steps mentality, as long as you take baby steps, you're always going to be nothing more than a baby. So.
Dang. Did you just drop the mic?
No, I didn't pick it up. But
that's safe for this episode. All right, so
PG-13.
Yeah, right. On a good day.
Yeah.
So the competitors that you're going to be following, I have a pretty good question about that. So should you be interacting with your competitors at all? Whether it be reaching out to them or, simply say they cross-post stuff from their blog onto Facebook or something along those lines. Any social medias. Should you be like, reaching out on a status that they make or even, here's an even better question. Should you be, reaching out to their audience? And if so, like why or why not?
The answer to all that is yes, but there's ways you can do it without making it as obvious.
Yeah.
I've even gone as far as I'll link some of my content to articles my competitors use. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem with that because I'm confident in my ability to do what I do.
Yeah.
You don't want to make it. Yes, you want to interact and comment and be a part of their post and what they're doing, but you want to do it in a way that it's just casual. You want their fans and their audience to see that, and they're naturally going to be attracted to that. But if you're constantly just trying to do the one-upper and make yourself look better than they are with their own content, that's going to be noticed, and you're not going to. That doesn't attract anybody.
Yeah, that's not effective at all.
No.
I would be like, who is this person and why are they on here?
I found what I had a lot of success with is what I'll do, especially you got to be willing to admit when your competitor puts out good content. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
And so
if you're a competitor, they're not going to be posting, terrible content. They're obviously a competitor and you're obviously kind of not scared, but intimidated a little bit.
Yeah, what I started doing at first is, I'd go to an article they'd shared or a post they'd made, and you got to make sure you're reading the article first. Too many people want to get involved and interacting with an article without even reading it. But I would read the content they published, and I would come up with the most difficult question I could. And I would
bring that to their attention.
Comments. Yeah, and then I would feed off of their answer. They would come up with an answer, and I'd say, well, I've tried this before. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
And I would never go out of my way to make them look bad or suggest that I'm more knowledgeable than them. Mm-hmm. But I would just let their audience see the questions I was asking. And sometimes you can look more intelligent with the questions you ask than the answers you give.
Yeah.
And that plays a huge role into that in interacting with your competitors online like that.
So do you think
it also gives you an opportunity to see where their mind's at? I mean, you ask them a question and they can't just ignore it. even if they know who you are, they've got to answer the question, or their audience is going to want to know what's going on.
Yeah, right. So do you think a lot of competitors would be sharing tips then? Because that's kind of like, the way that you're approaching it with questions is, kind of a way to get some tips on, future content then.
I think that shows a lot of the confidence and the skill set of your competitor. Mm-hmm. If they're good at what they do and they've got plenty of work, they're not going to hesitate to share information. But if they're struggling with something, or they're not maybe as high of a competitor as you thought, where they kind of restrain from sharing any kind of information like that publicly. Now, there's a difference between calling them up and asking them a question on the phone, but you got to pay attention. You can tell a lot about somebody with how they interact in public. And yeah. I guess you consider on Facebook, you can consider that public, but if they're good at what they're doing, if they're really a competitor you want to be matching up with, they should have no hesitation at all putting their information out there, because they know they're good enough. They're not going to lose their clientele unless something major happens.
Yeah. So what if they're, hesitant about answering your question, or they give you a very vague answer? Ask it in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? That's the best thing you can do, because that lets the audience see, hey, you know what? This person obviously doesn't know what they're talking about, because they can't even produce an answer.
Well, and that nonchalantly makes you look better.
Exactly. And like I said, sometimes you accomplish more with what you ask than what you tell. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'll tell you right now, and I learned this firsthand, if this is a strategy you're going to use, be ready to answer some questions on your next post, because they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
So, and in a way, I've built a healthy business relationship with several competitors, where there's a mutual respect, there's advice, and there's even times where they're too busy and they refer customers to me, and I'll do the same with them. So, like I said, it's all about how you go into this.
Yeah, exactly. So then for the second part, what about their audience? Would you interact with their audience? Is that like a rule that you'd be breaking? It's not like you're like, hey, come look at my content, but how would you approach that then? Especially, I think last episode we talked about, say your competitor put something out, like a post out or something, and you commented on it, and you ended up being the one agreeing with one of their audiences, like one of the people in their audience. Would that necessarily be an up for you then? Like, would you be reaching out to them personally, or how does that kind of work?
There's a lot of times where I've been in a similar situation where I'll ask a question or make a comment or reply to someone else's comment. And whenever I'll reply or give my response in open where everyone can see, I'll make sure I do it in a way where I'm not looking down on anyone. And I'll make sure I use the words, in my experience or in my past, I've done this.
Yeah.
I don't say, hey, this person's wrong, don't read what they're writing. I just say, hey, this is what has or hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where I'll send them a private message.
Mm-hmm.
If they've taken an interest to ask me something specific or to remark on a comment I've made, then they're interested enough that they're going to respond to the message I sent.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. It's because you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to be a one-upper, and you also don't want to be that person just trying not to, somebody that essentially looks like they can't get their own audience built,
Exactly.
So everything has to be like tasteful, and like you said, you just have to be honestly open and ready for, whatever is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And, I don't want to use his name on here, but I've got a mentor I'm close to that he's real big on what you do, especially in opportunities like this, is you just help them. Don't ask for a charge or anything. You contact them with a message. You go out of your way. You just help them. You show them what you can do, and if you're good at it, they're gonna come at. They're gonna come back asking you to do more, and that's when you say, "Hey, you know what? This is a service I provide. I really can't go out of my way to help you much more than I already have, but this is a service that is available."
Yeah.
That can be, anytime you go out of your way to help someone for free without expecting anything in return, I mean, it's reap and sow. There's always going to be something provided in the end.
Yeah. And that could be a long-term customer,
Exactly. Or they might not ever be your customer, but they might tell somebody else, hey, you know what? This person went out of their way to help me, and they were thorough with what they did, and they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe you ought to give them the call.
It's all about the relationship that you're trying to build.
Exactly.
Definitely. If you're just signing on, I see somebody just signed on. Feel free to comment or jump in on whatever we're discussing and ask any questions if you have any. You will be entered into a drawing to win a free content map that we'll be giving out. We'll be announcing the winner on our Friday show. So if you just want to comment or just say hi, tell us where you're from, feel free to do that. So since we've been, touching on social media a lot, and kind of how that incorporates a lot with, that's essentially the next step for creating quality content is kind of putting yourself out there and where you should be putting yourself out there. So how could you use social media then to study your competitors? And that might be an easy question to answer, but there also might be, some underlining things that you should be focusing on as well.
Yeah, you can, not only interact with their content, but pay attention to who else is interacting with it. Are they getting more of a male or female response? Mm-hmm. Are the people interacting with them, are they in their 20s or 30s or 40s? You can click on somebody's profile and get a lot of information about them. And you just, like I said, if they're getting a lot of interaction with a certain group, that's obviously a group you want to target if you're in the same industry.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. It always comes back to the demographics, especially if you're in your first, few months of doing this and you're just now putting yourself out there. That's definitely a good reason to start studying your competitors as well.
Exactly. And it's, just like any kind of advertising, social media advertising is an investment. The more you're willing to get involved with it, the more you're going to get a return on the investment you're making. Mm-hmm. And everyone hears the word investment and they just automatically see dollar signs, but taking the time to, study the audience, study who's making what kind of remarks, pay attention to, are these people asking questions or are they just responding to advice? There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between somebody saying, hey, this is really a good article. I enjoyed reading it. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Instead of hearing that, I'd rather hear somebody ask me a question about the content.
It means they're engaged in your writing.
Exactly. So if you're seeing that your competitors have content that's getting a lot of questions, you really ought to take another look at the content because they're doing something right.
Yeah. That's a good point. Is there anything else is there specific social networks that you should be kind of looking at too then? Or is it just wherever your competitors are at?
There's always closed groups with like Facebook and LinkedIn and, but you got to be careful how you go about interacting in those groups. Anytime you're going to get involved in a closed group like that, which I'm not saying not to, I'm involved with several, mm-hmm. but each one of these groups is going to have their own set of rules and make sure you're taking, because the last thing you want to do is be known as a person that does everything wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, there's groups to get involved with, which I recommend. But I made the big mistake at first in my in particular field. I think I joined like 15 different private groups, and maybe once a week would say something in one of them. And
Yeah,
now,
they're like, who's this guy?
exactly.
Yeah.
Now I've just got 2 groups that I'm in, and I interact daily. The other members of the group know who I am. They know how I think. They know what I do. They check out my blog. They know me personally. So the goal isn't to get involved with as many groups as you can. The goal is to get involved in the group and become one of the authority figures in the group. Not necessarily a page administrator or something. You want to be known as a go-to person in the group.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do when you're trying to do it in 15 different groups.
Yeah.
I wasted a lot of time doing that.
That's like when we mentioned, joining all the social medias at once when you're just starting to put out your content, and it's just like, whoa. And then like you said, you just become that, invisible person in a sense.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not putting your presence out there, and you're not engaging. And
yeah. And the biggest thing you can do, think about it. If you post one of your blogs on social media, people might not realize it, but Colleen writes too. But if you post one of the blogs that you've written, what do you want? Don't you get excited when somebody shares it? At least in the beginning, it always makes you feel good. So, do that with other people's stuff. Share it, and that not only gets their attention of who you are, but that also lets your personal audience see that, when you're sharing other content that's not yours, but is directly revolved in the industry you're in, it just shows that you know more of what you're talking about. Yeah. That you're more open to being current than you are to being the one being right. Mm-hmm. Kind of like getting married.
I wouldn't know about all that. I'm gonna throw the flag up on that one. I'll stay on that page as long as I can. That's funny. That's great.
As long as she doesn't watch later.
Let's flag that page for her, okay?
Brad gave bad at the video.
So when you're studying your competitors, obviously it's probably important, I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably important to study your competitors at first before you even, start joining all these social medias then too.
You know what? A lot of people might think that, and I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong way, but for me, it all goes back to that's taking baby steps. And I don't do that. Part of success is failing sometimes. So be prepared, but don't use the excuse, I got to keep doing more research to learn what I'm doing. Sometimes you're not going to learn from a competitor. You're going to run an ad and it's going to fail and you're going to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
So no, I would right away start out and just be willing to admit the fact that this might not go good and I'm going to constantly improve.
Yeah.
And there's going to be ads that fail. If every ad was a success, the world would definitely be a different place.
Everyone would be on the same level as you,
Exactly.
It's like, where is there to grow and who are you going to be looking towards to actually meet that goal?
Exactly. And that I don't think enough people enjoy anymore the process of growing into something major.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while. It's going to take some time. It's going to get frustrating, but you just got to stick with it and keep doing it every week. Every week, be persistent with it. And eventually, if you make it important enough, the results will eventually show up.
Yeah, definitely. So then, kind of like, how often would you be studying your competitors then? Like, what is a good amount of time that you should be studying?
I know for me personally, you know, if you get into Facebook, that's what I'm familiar with. I mean, you can schedule these different ads and campaigns. And so what I try to do, it doesn't always work out, but my goal is always to I've got one day where I'll spend getting my ads for the following week ready, and that's normally a good time to spend, an hour and a half, 2 hour, and don't just focus on one competitor. Don't. That's just like if you've got a group of people you consult about information. Don't make a move based on one person. Take time. Surely there's more than one business that has had more success than you've had.
Yeah.
So
once again, that kind of sounds like baby steps,
Yeah, well,
I mean, you're only going to be one-upping one person as far as you know, and what's the challenge in that?
Exactly, and when you look at several pieces, there's always a big picture, and it's always a puzzle, and there's different pieces. If you're just focused on one piece, you're not going to get very far. But when you're looking at several of your different competitors, you know what? Maybe this person is just awesome with the content, but they don't really have the greatest headlines. This competitor over here has headlines that once you start reading the content, you only go a couple sentences into the article before you quit, but the headline gets your attention. Another competitor might be great with images. And so when you're willing to learn from several different sources, it'll speed the process up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. There's still one more person on. I don't know if that's Gabe or if there's anybody else in the audience, but feel free to comment or ask any questions. You'll be entered into a drawing, and then there'll be one person that's going to be announced on Friday. You'll be winning our content map, which if you don't know about it, we also have an episode that we talked about it, but they signed off.
Have we ever went? I think every show we mentioned Gabe. Have we ever went into any detail about who Gabe is?
I don't know. I would say I would assume people would know who he is, but I get a lot of people that I'm like, okay, well, Gabe and I will be giving you a call, and they're like, who's Gabe? I'm like, oh, all right.
My imaginary friend. So.
Yeah, you're like, what is that, the bird on your shoulder? Like,
yeah, no, Gabe Arnold is the founder of Copywriter Day, and I've been involved with several different writing services, and I've never ever worked with anybody who owned a company of our size that is so involved with everybody from the employees to the customers. It's plays a part of why we've got so much success as a company because of his involvement. And he even takes time to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do with this show.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know if he sleeps. I'm still figuring that out. Let me know if you find out if he ever does.
Who knows?
He sleeps probably as much as you, which is 2 hours?
He's smart enough to turn his phone off at certain hours, though. So he might sleep, he might not, but that's just one of the great wonders of the world. So.
Yeah, that's an answer I will never know. And it's always a constant joke. Every time I'm randomly signing on, he's always still on. I'm like, what is this? But yeah, like you said, he's always super engaged and very personable with not only us, but especially with the clients, which sounds like something that, everyone that is a founder of a company should be doing. But there's a lot of people that they don't know the face behind the company.
Exactly. And Gabe is really good. I remember when I first started working for Copywriter Day, for starters, like the first day I applied and was asked to do some paperwork, it was like 9:00 at night. I called, I had a question, and my goal was just to leave a voicemail and hopefully I'd hear back tomorrow. And I call like 9 o'clock at night, and Gabe actually answers the phone. I'm like,
Of
wait a
course.
minute, you're the guy from these videos.
Yeah.
That just that I was really attracted to that, and also he not only knows the employees and the customers, but he knows the exact kind of content each customer wants.
Yeah.
He knows what the goals are of their content, how much they're ordering, what the word count is. So it all goes back to why the copywriter today is so much better, a step ahead of their competitors.
Yeah.
That's
Well, because
why
we focus
get
on
here, kind of like what I just mentioned, talking about with our interaction with competitors. How many other writing service do you see that has a show 3 times a week to where they just openly tell everybody what it is they do for success?
yeah, that's
If
and
they're
giving
good
away
enough-
stuff, you know,
Exactly.
because we are and has
Would Gabe just say? I saw a comment pop
he
up.
said, glad I tuned in now, LOL.
Yeah.
Well, let's sign off now.
Yeah. But no.
Which is, but like you said, you know, aside from him, also our account managers, they, you know, I ask them, hey, somebody is looking for this article in some kind of medicine, and they're like, oh yeah, like we have somebody that, you know, focuses on that. That's something we can totally do. Like, because we have way more long-term customers than, you know, just they want a couple articles and then they leave.
Yep. Yeah. And just our entire staff, what was it, last Saturday night, and I won't lie, I got a little jumpy at first, but I thought about it and realized what a benefit was to be with the company. We had a certain manager filling in for a while, and I got an email at like 11:30 Saturday night, and I was like, "Are you serious?" But once I took the time to read it, and all it was feedback of what I could do. I mean, it was awesome that our editors take the time to interact with the writing team that much, that they're up that late on a Saturday night working with the writers on a personal level to help them improve. And
Right.
You would be hard pressed to find a company like this.
That's what we call quality content.
Yeah, yeah.
It's no joke when we say we edit.
Yeah.
All right, so if nobody has any other questions,
competitors can feel free to comment on our show anytime they want.
Yeah, study us. That's what we
yeah, that is always the goal. Is you want to be the company others are studying. So you got to study other companies until you get there.
Awesome. I agree with that. So our next episode will be Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's when we will be announcing the winner of the content map. So make sure you tune in. We'll also be reaching out to that person, and maybe we can like tag them in the comments, but we can always reach you somehow, especially because you liked it, and you know, everything's on Facebook now. So,
oh yeah. Yeah.
So, if anybody wants to look back on this, and you can always just comment, and we're always kind of around. One of us is always on the page, whether it be me, Jeff, or Gabe. So we will be able to answer any of the questions that you have on the video and all the information that we talked about. And then you'll be entered into the drawing. So like I said, one person will be winning on Friday, and we do that weekly. So make sure you don't miss any other videos that we're going to be having coming up. So Jeff, if you have nothing else to say, maybe we can sign off for the day and create some good quality content now, right?
Yeah.
I know you're a busy man. You're a busy man.
I'm still trying to create. Well, never mind. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Oh boy! All right, guys. Well, have a good rest of your day, and we will be seeing you on Friday. Then.
See you Friday.
Have a good one.
Bye.